we're not talking about prepping for a hurricane here or a snowstorm here. We're talking about surviving through a very difficult time for humanity.
Here at Liberty and Finance, we're licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. We are standing by the inventory, ready to make sure you get what you need, even into the wee hours of night and on weekends, because preparedness doesn't stop. Call us 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. This guest, Paul Helinski, the owner and founder of GunsAmerica.com and also an avid preparedness expert in many topics, which we're going to get into today, is joining us again to talk about topics that are very near and dear to the heart of all of our viewers who have been with us since our origins as reluctant preppers. Paul, thanks for coming back on Liberty and Finance here this Friday, August 5th, 2022.
Hi, Dunnigan. It's nice to meet you in person at the Rules Symposium.
I was just going to mention that. We spent part of last week together at the Rural Symposium on Natural Resources in Boca Raton, Florida, and it was great to see you several days throughout that. And along the way, we started talking about preparedness in general and realizing that the focus of that event is primarily on investing and financial preparedness, and that there are so many other topics that are vital, absolutely vital to people for the success of their family's future going forward, preservation of our family in the questionable and perhaps hostile environment that we're moving into. And you keep trying to be, I guess I would call it a prophet for common sense in calling people to getting back to the basics, kind of looking at the Maslow's hierarchy of life. Is what do you need? You got to breathe, you got to eat, you got to drink water, you got to protect yourself. So if we could kind of go in rapid fire as much as we can through several topics, and also focusing on where people get misinformation and misconceptions, and where there are misperceptions or widely popularized myths out there that people might be preparing out of good intention, but maybe doing the wrong thing or focusing in the wrong area that isn't as practical or as affordable as they should be doing. So one of the first things that a lot of people are concerned about right now is the idea of food. We've been told to expect food shortages. I think even President Biden came out talking about a month ago about there's going to be food shortages and it's going to hurt. And we've heard from farmers who are talking about, galloping price increases in the feed that they're feeding to their animals right now, and that's going to end up getting passed on in the fall when the herds get slaughtered, that sort of thing. We've heard about outages at many food processing facilities around the country, and besides the fractured supply chain, et cetera. So people need to have food security. We interviewed Joel Salatin from Polyface Farms on a topic called "You Better Get Your Food Security Figured Out Now." And we had you on in a recent interview talking about how to do that on a shoestring, how to do it in bulk, and how to do it economically. So if you want to recap some of what you think are the key points people need to be aware of so that they avoid some of the pitfalls that might be easy to stumble into when you're starting with the good intention of shoring up your family's food security.
Okay, Dunnigan. When I first started this, I started a column called Prepping 101 on Guns America Digest, which is at GunsAmerica.com/digest. And there's years worth of archives there because I started with food and water. And the first thing I did was buy prepper food. Like everyone else, I bought prepper food. And I came across a company that said that their calories per dollar were higher than everyone else's. 200 calories per dollar. And I said, wow, 200 calories per dollar, that seems a little lean to me. So I looked into the other food prepper companies at the time, and they were right. Theirs were around 100 calories per dollar. The bucket that you get at Home Depot and the stuff that's on the shelves at Walmart, the August and Farms and stuff, is usually less than 100 calories per dollar. So I said, I wonder what we actually pay for survival food. And I looked, and then I figured out how to calculate it myself. And the calculation is pretty easy. You take calories per serving times serving in the container, come up with a number, and then divide it by the price. So I took some things that I knew were stored forever. There's certain things that grains, basic grains that store forever. literally forever. And they'll even keep in like a silo, like corn and wheat and beans. They don't need any special storage whatsoever. And I looked at flour. Flour will keep, inside in a reasonable environment. Flour will keep indefinitely. And the first thing I checked was a bag of Walmart flour, and it was actually the best thing to check because you can't beat it. Back then, Walmart flour was north of 5,000 calories per dollar. Now, I just did it the other day because when I remembered that this interview was going to take place, I calculated it, and the 10-pound bag of flour right now at Walmart is, I believe, $3.64. That bag of flour has 151 servings, I believe was the math, times 110 calories per serving, if I remember the math correctly. It came out to still 4,500 calories per dollar. So I extrapolated that same calculation to everything else. And I looked at the dry beans, the dry rice, the pasta, the non-fat dried milk, the oatmeal, and all of these things came in at north of 1,000 calories per dollar. Now, even things like elegant foods, like tuna, was still around 100 calories per dollar. Back then, the Walmart canned salmon was much cheaper than it is now, and it was a similar 100, 150 calories per dollar. Dinty Moore was 450 calories per dollar. It's a little bit. That stuff has come up a lot. But people say, oh, there's no meat left in the Dinty Moore. I can't eat it because it's not kosher. But the Chef Boyardee kind of stuff. But it, purely calories of prepared food versus dry food. The dry foods, the grains, all the stuff that keeps forever is all north of 1,000 calories per dollar. And even the canned food flattens out around 300 calories per dollar, except for fish, which is around 100, 150 calories per dollar. Crazy. Things like canned green beans are 50 calories per dollar. Canned corn is still, I think, up in the 300 calories per dollar. So whether you're going for dry storage, where you can store a lot of calories in a little bit of space, and you don't need to cook it, you need it now. You don't want to make it right now. You're still north of prepper food. And if you want long-term storage, like Joseph in the Bible after the dreams, he had to do 7 years of famine he had to prepare for. Well, how did he do it? With grains. He didn't put away he didn't put away canned food. He put away grains, and because grains will keep literally forever. So that is, I would say, the biggest source of misinformation and scam in the prepper thing, in the food, is all the prepper food. You can store your dry grains and stuff in Mylar bags. I've recently covered this. I split off my prepping stuff to griddownmag.com, and it also has its own YouTube channel now with almost no subscribers. I don't even think I have 1,000 subscribers yet on it. But I'm doing very in-depth products on there of some of the stuff that I'm going to get to now. I'm going to get to next. The Mylar bag. I want
to interrupt you and ask you quickly, when you talk about these long-term storage expectations for some things like flour especially, does that require, in order to make that statement come true, for it to be healthful and nutritious for a long period of time, does it need to be in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers?
I'm not sure about the oxygen absorbers. I'm not a big believer in it. I recently did a thing on griddownmag.com showing people how to make their own oxygen absorbers. You can buy oxygen absorbers, but there's a little bit of it's a little hinky, because usually they'll put a freshness tab in there that changes color with the oxygen, but you don't know if they put that freshness tab in there right when they did it. Like, did they like, how did they package it at the same time? Because it comes in bulk, how do they package it at the same time that they put the tabs in, but that they're probably doing hundreds at a time, and the tab, but I showed a thing using steel wool and salt that you can make your own oxygen absorbers if you want oxygen absorbers. The containers themselves, right now, Dunnigan, we're not talking about 5 years from now. Right now, your flour is still going to be in date. You know, like I hate to break it to all of you people who have been sitting on the sidelines, but it's time. If you want to keep it for a long time, which would be great, you know, that would enable you to learn how to grow stuff, which I can get to as well. But if we have a little bit of time, you're going to be fine. If we have a lot of time and you want to put your stuff in protection, use Mylar bags. I turn people on to Uline. Uline makes a really nice, I believe it's 29 inches by 30 inch, big, thick, 4 mil thick Mylar bag with a Ziploc, which I used for flour. You can open it and close it. It's really nice. You kind of get flour in the Ziploc eventually, but but yeah, it's a kind of a pain. But they're really nice, and they exactly fit a 50-pound bag of flour, a 50-pound bag of rice, 50-pound bag of beans, not oatmeal. Oatmeal's a little fluffier, but it does conveniently fit about 60 pounds of pasta, depending on the type of pasta, how much air is in the pasta. And if you want to, and they're about $3 each with shipping, not cheap. But don't bother with plastic buckets. Plastic buckets don't protect you from rodents anyway. They're not as airtight as a Mylar bag. And don't rely on the Ziploc to seal the Mylar bag. Either use a sealer, which at Grid Down, I've covered all. I did this whole how I Mylar thing. I showed you some bag sealers. There's inexpensive bag sealers that you can get that will go at least to the middle of that for under $200. And some people have said to use a curling iron, to use a regular clothes iron, to just iron the seal. I don't see why an iron would not work. So you could try that. I personally haven't tried that.
Sounds like a one-time. It's not going to be resealable.
With a Ziploc, at least you don't have. At least you have a Ziploc there. And if you're careful not to get stuff in the Ziploc, then at least you'll have the Ziploc to rely upon. But that overall is food. There's a lot more stuff on Grid Down on the Prepping 101 archives. If you want to see me actually doing it and what actually fits in these. Actually just found a giant Mylar bag. I just shot the video for it the other day. It holds 6 10-pound bags of Walmart flour, which is about the best you can do for calories per dollar. And the side point about Walmart is that Walmart does delivery now. So one of the nice things is that if you do Walmart delivery, not expensive. I actually subscribe on it. We use it all the time. Stuff will come to your door, dropped in front of your house. You don't have to schlep it, and the delivery guy's not logging what house he drops things at. So if you quietly, because this is heavy stuff, Dunnigan. It's heavy, it's heavy stuff to deal with. You have to get started because you're going to get tired really fast. You're going to see that your one Walmart cart, maybe you can fit 6 months of food in there, and for less than $200. But it's heavy. Slugging these big heavy bags of things, it really wears you out, especially if you're not young like me. But have it delivered to your house. You can have 10-pound bags of Walmart flour delivered to your house. They have a limit of whatever on them. Just keep doing the orders, keep doing the orders, keep doing the orders. In the middle of the pandemic, just because I knew that none of my friends had any food, I had like 200 pounds of rice delivered right to my door. Because Walmart, if they don't have it at the store, they'll ship it anyway for free. It's crazy. They're losing all kinds of money. Take advantage of it. That's the best way to get prepper food right now for a whole year.
While we're still on food, in the same breath, we have to talk about water. So if we could talk about the drinkable water, because there's some real ignorance or misunderstandings or potentially products that are less than helpful that people might be going for. I'd like to hear your perspectives on that. Everybody might have different results from their testing, but what you've uncovered in your experience.
Yeah, so water is actually a pretty complex subject. So at first we'll go to filtration, because filtration is where you find the most misinformation out there, especially from Berkey water filters. Berkey is another one of those things that sponsors a lot of prepper channels. that does a lot of they do a lot of outreach. And if you go on their website, it's laughable how much they actually get for a ceramic gravity water filter that's mounted in a stainless steel bucket. It's like $300. And that filter, the filter that they're using, you probably can get on Amazon right now. If you search on Amazon for Dome water filter, you'll find the filters that are pretty comparable, the ceramic filters, to what Berkey's going to sell you for roughly $10 a piece, $20 a piece. And you can use just regular HDPE 5-gallon buckets. And the way a gravity filter works is you put the filter pointing down in the top bucket with a sock over the filter, and you fill the top bucket and it drips into the bottom bucket. And then you can either backwash the filter, but more commonly, you just take like a green scrubby lightly and scrape off and scrubby out the filter once it gets slow. You can put more than one in a bucket. And that Chinese ceramic filter seems to work fine. Now, is it going to filter out things like chlorine, things that aren't going to kill you? No. Something like some of the gases that are in water? No. If you want the best that money can buy, is the one that all the OEMs use for the third world countries. It's called Just Water. I believe the website is justwater.info. They do not have a lot of U.S. retailers. The one retailer that I know that has it at a reasonable price is SB. SB is Star and Bullock Hardware, which is sbhardware.com. They have it for, I believe, about $60 a filter, which is very reasonable. There used to be a lot of eBay sellers selling them, but most of the ones now have switched to the other filter that looks just like the Just Water filter, and they're selling the Chinese ones. They're reselling those and making crazy money selling them for $30 or $50 each. But they will not say that they're the Just Water filter. Just Water is the only one that's got carbon on the inside, and all kinds of other additives on the inside. When you shake it, you can hear that it's filled with stuff, right? So the other ones like Life Straw and the little pump filters, that stuff's all made in China. You don't need the name brand of it. It all works fine. Some of them you can backwash fairly easy, but they do get slow fairly quickly, and there's no way to really, other than to backwash them, there's no real way to clean them. So I strongly recommend a gravity filter. Even if you just get the cheap Chinese ceramic filters, put a sock around it. You can sand them off, like I said, when they get slow, and just cut 3 holes in a bucket, put 3 filters in. You'll have enough water for a few people to be able to keep up with stream water or whatever.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about water collection, because in addition to water purification, what are some strategies for water collection that you recommend?
Okay, so that that is going to be able to, you'll be able to drink stream water, pond water, things that available water sources that you may have. The problem with stream water, pond water is they can have airborne problems like giardia in them, or if an animal dies upstream, you can drink the water from the contaminated water and get sick. All that stuff are very big particles that ceramic filters will take care of. Rainwater collection is not as hard as people think it is. There are plenty. If you just kind of Google rainwater collection, you can set up a gutter system on your house with downspouts, and they have specialized tools that you'll see that there's a battle for the search results on them. You'll be able to find them pretty easy. They have special heads that go above that you put above the tank that catch from the downspout on the gutter and has a screen on it that catch the leaves and stuff. And then they'll have like a dump pipe at the bottom, so that the first 100 gallons that has the lizard poop and stuff on it and the dead bugs, the first however many gallons will go into the dump pipe, and then it flows past the dump pipe. It has like a ball that floats to the top. You can make it yourself, really, with a plastic ball. And those kinds of systems are very easy. You'd be amazed at how much water actually comes off your roof. For the buckets, you can get usually on like Facebook Marketplace. You'll find someone locally who's selling 55-gallon drums. Usually the plastic ones are olives, and they're food safe. They're fine. Just try not to get one with chemicals, or stick your head in it and smell it. If it doesn't smell, it's probably fine. But then you also have IBC totes. IBC totes are 275 gallons. And likewise, depending on where you live, you probably can find IBC totes locally just by Googling IBC totes near me. And you may find someone who specializes in reselling these IBC totes. And IBC totes usually have edibles in them, like all the flavorings, molasses for like rum distillers. All that stuff comes in IBC totes. Like everything comes in IBC totes. So they're usually around, and they have a big steel. You've probably seen them for aquaponics. People use them.
Yeah, it's got a cage, and inside the cage is a plastic rectangular bottle.
Exactly, yes. And there's all kinds of attachments on AliExpress for them now that are expressly for IBC totes. Caps that have a breather on the top, and a pipe going into them. Like, there's all kinds of crazy cool stuff just made for IBC totes that you can get on AliExpress now. Not a lot of them on eBay. I've been trying to get the Star and Bullet guys to bring some in from China, but they haven't yet. But all kinds of nice ball valve things for the bottom, and all kinds of stuff. And you can hook them to, you can fill them at height so that you've got a little bit of water pressure. I believe every 4 feet of height that you leave them at is about a 1.5 PSI. So if you want to just fill toilets and fill your gravity filters, you can just fill it at height. When it's empty, just build a base for it, 4 or 5 feet high, and then it'll fill for your toilets and whatever. And you just got to do it. It's just work like anything else. I had some that I set up at my house, but they went green on me. They also sell on AliExpress, they sell covers just made for IBC totes, like silver reflective covers so that you can reflect the sunlight so they don't turn green on you as fast. And you can throw in some pool shock or whatever. There's a pool shock that's not as poisonous. It's actually chlorine, or just use straight chlorine bleach. Put in a capful every once in a while just to keep the algae from coming in. And just as long as you've got some air to it, it'll keep for a very long time. If you seal it up, it tends to go funky on you. But if you just leave a little bit of air, not so that mosquitoes can get in to lay their eggs, but just a little bit of air, it stays for a pretty good amount of time. I actually also covered tarps. You can just have some tarps on hand and put a vent right in the middle of it. Put like a dump valve in the middle of it. And just kind of use a hole punch and punch a hole in the tarp. You can even find drainage tarps on. You can find water collection tarps with that pre-installed on eBay and stuff. They're out there. And then if you don't have the ability to put it up, or you live in Colorado where you're not allowed to collect your rainwater, there's a lot of places you're not allowed to collect your rainwater. It's considered a state resource or something. There's laws against it. And I covered all that back in the Prepping 101 days. I killed Prepping 101 during the Trump years because no one cared about prepping anymore. But I kind of did cover all this. There's even bags. If you look at my water articles there's bags that you can fit under the bed that hold like 1,000 gallons. They're like water bed bags, but they're made for potable water. They're not cheap. But if you're in a place where you're not supposed to collect your rainwater, you could even put a covert diverter on your downspout and divert it to fill your bag, and then clean it out once in a while. It's all doable. You just kind of have to do it. Putting away a few gallon buckets or a few 5-gallon buckets is stupid. But the thing that I tell people about water that's most important is that's probably going to be the last thing you have to worry about. if you're already on some kind of city water system, like we're on nuclear power in South Florida. So if you're on nuclear power, most likely your power is not going to be the first thing that goes out. Now, you may lose your local transformer, and they don't have a local transformer to replace it with, like it happened in Atlas Shrugged. Atlas Shrugged, the whole world burned down because of one piece of copper wire. That no one had a copper wire to replace it with. If you read Atlas Shrugged. And that may be a problem, that your neighbor's got power, but you don't, because there's no transformer for your house or your neighborhood. So I would say that's the biggest exposure you have with electricity, but not so much. I just don't think it's your first priority. If you have a good gravity system, to be able to just scrounge up water and water transport. I'm actually going to be doing a water transport article pretty soon, because I actually found a lot of really nice water transport options for people that they put on Star and Bullock hardware. But you can just fill 2-liter bottles of water. Just keep your empty 2 liters and have a nice big rucksack, a big military rucksack, like an Alice pack. You can get an Alice pack for like $75, and you can carry a couple 100 pounds in that. If you got someone stout enough to fill up that pack with 2-liter bottles of water that you got at the local river or the local pond, and you just kind of sneak out at night to go get some water and pack your water back, you're fine. Just have a good gravity system.
Miles Franklin Precious Metals is one of America's oldest and most trusted bullion dealers. Miles Franklin is A+ rated and accredited by the Better Business Bureau, licensed and bonded, and has 0 complaints ever registered. Here at Liberty and Finance, we are licensed brokers with Miles Franklin. To order, simply call us, discuss your needs, and we will let you know our live inventory, prices, and availability, and lock in your order over the phone. Once your order is locked, the price is held for you regardless of market fluctuations, and the metals are reserved for you awaiting your settled payment. Within 1 business day of ordering, you will receive an email invoice detailing the order and payment instructions. Miles Franklin accepts payments by bank wire, ACH or electronic check, money order, check mailed priority mail, and cryptocurrency. The fastest forms of payment are bank wire and cryptocurrency. Upon settled payment, metals will ship out within 3 to 5 business days. You will receive tracking information via email. Domestic shipping charges are $15 for any order under 500 ounces of silver or 10 ounces of gold. For orders larger than that, domestic shipping is free. The package will be double boxed, fully insured, and labeled discreetly, with no indication of the contents inside. For your privacy, the name Miles Franklin will not even be on the package. To talk to myself, Elijah, my brother Kaiser, or my father Dunnigan, call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237.